right, good morning, colleagues. Welcome to our first meeting of 2022, and as always, we kick it off with the Committee on Appointments. So nice to see everyone, and thank you to the one person watching, and our faithful city staff who attend these meetings. So, colleagues, we do have a few items, actually a number of items, to approve. As you know, we had a number of technical difficulties. He's not used to it. He hasn't been up here for a couple of weeks, so. No, just always making sure that online delay is, or online streaming is working, so thank you, City Clerk. So, okay. I stand corrected. So, the first item that we have is a resolution confirming Mayor Bliss's appointment of Paul Roseboom to the City Planning Commission. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Okay. Colleagues, Mr. Roseboom has been on this City Planning Commission board, and I'm glad that he will continue to serve. Any other comments? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, carries. Thank you. Next is a resolution confirming Mayor Bliss's appointment of Carlos Calderon to the Stormwater Oversight Commission. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Okay, it's moved and supported. Any comments about this appointment?
I think it makes sense with him, his role at WEMIAC, so.
Yeah. Thank you. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, it carries. Thank you. Next is a resolution approving the City Commissioner's appointment of Heather Van Wormer to the Historic Preservation Commission.
So moved.
Support.
Okay, thank you, colleagues. I believe this is a reappointment, Daniel? No,
No, this is actually a first-time
this
appointment.
is a first-time appointment. Okay, yes. I think we had a few that were coming off of Historic Preservation Commission, and so this is probably pulling from some of the work that we did at the end of the year.
I believe the next item would be a reappointment.
Got
from a
it. Okay,
former member.
yes. I think you're right. Okay, on this item, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, carries, thank you. Item number 4, a resolution approving the City Commission's appointment of Michael Rodriguez to the Historic Preservation Commission. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Okay. Any other additional comments beyond what Daniel said as a reappointment? And thank you, Mr. Rodriguez, for continuing to serve. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, it carries. The next and the last item is for approval is a resolution confirming Mayor Bliss's appointment of Karen Klustra to the North Quarter Improvement Authority.
So moved.
Support.
Thank you, colleagues. Ms. Klustra is owner of Stone's Throw on our Plainfield corridor. This is one of the bodies that I sit on. So we've have a couple of people who decided not to renew, had some people who moved, so we're glad to have another addition. And Karen has been committed to the North Quarter for many years. All those in favor?
Aye.
Carries. All right, so we had 5 resolutions, so thank you, colleagues. The next is a discussion of our current boards and vacancies. Thank you, City Clerk. So the first one is around, which is the big one that we've been working on, is our Affordable Housing Fund. Daniel sent over some information as it related to some of our appointments or the desired appointments that we have. I know we're working through, just as a reminder, the vetting process can take some time. So after this, we have at least 2 that will need to be followed up to see how we can continue that appointment process, or if we're at a standstill, and if we may need to consider those reappointments. I'm hoping that it's, and this can be common, it's just something that needs to get fixed. So, and then Daniel, we also discussed Mr. Maurice Townsend for the 3rd Ward. I think he applied.
Correct, yes, he has applied. He
Okay.
applied in the end of November.
Okay,
And it looks like there's only one department we're waiting for, and I can
okay.
follow up with that.
All right. So for the 3 ward appointments, colleagues, those are still being in the vetting process. So this is taking a little bit of time. We also have a full list, I think, of over 90 individuals who have applied. And so we'll continue to look at that, but I think we almost want to see if ours will move forward, because if not, then I think some of us may need to go back to that full list and decide if there is somebody out of that list to appoint. Say if one of our desired appointments we're unable to resolve it in a timely manner. Okay?
3 of the 5 city-appointed seats will be filled at the next meeting,
Okay.
at least.
At least.
The agenda item deadline is this
So
Thursday at noon.
the city managers, the mayors,
And the 2nd ward.
Oh, that one is resolved?
Correct.
Oh, I thought it wasn't. Okay.
It's been resolved.
Oh,
correct.
wow.
Well,
Asking
wrote-
it happens. Okay.
And I wrote to the first ward person yesterday, so maybe they'll get that done by Thursday.
Okay, great. So we will see those ones at our next meeting, because yes, the Thursday's the deadline.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, colleagues, so we'll continue to work on those items. I think this is all of our bodies are important. This is obviously undertaking some significant but also first-time work, and so there will be a lot of additional insight that we'll need to work on. Can you go back up to civil service? So we do have a civil service board meeting today, and we are down one individual. This is, again, somebody who is typically, lives in the city but might have a background in HR or law or employee relations. Those are the sorts of individuals that are best suited for this role. So have a couple of people who have expressed interest, but I think, again, we're picking up sort of everybody's like, let's talk in January. So we'll reach back out to that one. Community Relations Commission was the same. We had somebody who expressed interest to the mayor that the mayor was interested in appointing, but had said they would need to consider in 2022. I think the next few we do not need to discuss in further detail. And can you go back up? What is is that the DID? Okay, those are just,
It may look a little shocking.
I was gonna say,
but
yes, okay.
I wanted to let you know that some former members who were reapplying a little too late for the December meeting
Okay.
are in the vetting process currently.
Okay.
And will fill some of those vacancies.
okay.
Great.
Got it. Thank you. I thought it might be some sort of clerical piece. Thank you. Economic development and Brownfield. I know I was appointed at the last meeting of the year, but this is still for another opening on the board. So this is updated fully. Okay. And then the Historical Commission, is that the same as the DID? Yep. Okay. Thank you. The Civilian Appeals Board, this is the one that Mr. Davis sent out us a message during the holidays, colleagues. I think this one, like many of our boards, that this is a quasi-judicial board and it takes some significant prep work. There isn't always things to be heard, but it can take a significant amount of time. So, identifying individuals who would like to make that commitment. So right now, the mayor has an appointment, Commissioner O'Connor has an appointment, and Commissioner Moody, you have an appointment. And I know the last time you had shared some names and we're working on that. So I just wanted to highlight that one again.
Okay.
And then the historic preservation, this will be updated with the two that we just did. Thank you. Sorry, this often finds this feels like a list, but it's important work. So thank you all for doing this. And then our Housing Appeals Board, is this the same as the other two, Daniel?
Correct.
Okay.
There will be.
So this will be resolved at our future meetings. And then the rest are ones, I know, Joel, you had brought up the local officers' compensation, which only meets so many years. So that's a regular commitment. And then we have two for the Mobile GR Commission, and I see Mr. Kimura in the chambers. I don't know if there's anything that you would like to share. I know last time we talked about just making sure we have, when we look at all of these boards, sometimes there are residency requirements, sometimes there's different bylaws that might not have that, but really connecting into our resident voice and ensuring equity in these appointment process. And Commissioner Repper, I know you were in contact with some folks in our South Division corridors to make sure that those voices were heard. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we're working on that, Justin. Parks and Rec Advisory Board, I know Mr. Marquardt is here as well. If there's any comments that you'd like to make, you're welcome to come to the dais. But I know we were working through, we had some changes, and there's just a quick typo I'm seeing in advisory, so.
Oh, thank you.
That's okay. So Miss Stephanie Adams had accepted a new job. Congratulations to her again. So the appointment of her as the Friends of GR Parks Executive Director, she's no longer there, so that's one of the openings. And then Commissioner Repart, you serve on this one.
Yeah. Well, no, I don't serve on this
Oh, I'm sorry.
advisory. I serve
On the board, I'm
the
sorry,
board of
yes. Mm-hmm.
Friends. But, so will that create a third vacancy then, David?
Thank you, David.
Yes, it does. And our board met last evening, a rescheduled meeting from last week with the snowstorm. And the board member on Park Advisory that also sits on Friends of Grand Rapids Board mentioned that the Friends organization would like the new executive director to make an appointment for this vacant position.
Okay. Perfect. And then we did discuss Max Gibbs moving forward, as well as, I think, boy, I'm trying to think of Hannah Miko was another one, and then there was a third one that we,
There were a few at the end of the year. Can we go to the minutes of the last meeting?
let's see if I can find this.
Thanks, David. You might want to stay in the front row.
It's-
I just want to, or actually, can you pull up the last agenda, City Clerk, for our last, actually, maybe 2 meetings ago, sorry. Because I think I just want to refer back to the agenda, because we did some approvals. I know, Daniel, we had kind of prioritized some that weren't going to be, where we knew we might have some issues with some boards, so, okay, we didn't have any. This is the 7th. The 14th would have been the last meeting, but that's where we did the full, we didn't take one by one, we just did year-end appointments. And then if not, can you scroll down to, yeah, that'd be great. I'm just watching the clock for our fiscal committee. Okay, thanks. Okay. I know we had some that we had discussed at our planning meeting. Maybe that was this. We didn't do any business on the special meeting that we had, that additional one after Thanksgiving. But I know that there were some names that were shared, and I know that the mayor had some names that were forwarded. Could you go back to the last meeting of the year, City Clerk, and go into the body of the agenda? Because then I think, Daniel, you had broken out each different body
Yes.
with individuals.
Correct.
And I'm sorry, I don't print it anymore. Save the earth a little bit. Okay, so these were reappointments, right? Carl.
those two.
And Mr.
Kevin
Johnson and
Jones.
Ms. Peltier, right?
Correct.
So then the two that are on there, those are true openings and plus Stephanie's.
Correct.
So total of
yes.
3.
And Ms. Miko has been fully vetted, and Mr. Gibbs is still in the vetting process.
Okay.
Great. Okay. I think I'm remembering those from our business meeting where we didn't actually have resolutions, but we talked about different names, and
Okay.
I think the mayor was supportive of those names as well. Okay.
And when we get a
So-
new executive director for Friends, I mean, that's all in process right now. We'll get them to designate someone until they're able to start.
That's great. And I don't know if this has formally run through the process yet, but prior board chair Lee Mueller termed out at
Right.
the end of December.
Right.
So that will be another vacancy if it has not yet showed up on the roster.
Yeah, if
Okay.
I remember correctly, we have 3 to fill, not including Stephanie.
Correct. Yeah.
And I know that
So-
we landed on Max, Hannah, and I'm trying to think if it was Chris or Marie were the other 2.
Okay, so can you repeat that, Commissioner? So we have 2 that are on our agenda for today that are open.
Yep.
Then executive director from Parks opening.
And then also
Then
Lee.
Lee.
Yep.
And then we have Miss Miko, who could go on our next agenda.
Correct.
And then we have Stephanie's role, which we will keep open. And then we have 2 that would need to be filled. And then one may be Mr. Gibbs.
Right, yeah.
And then we had some other names that we discussed. Okay.
Good.
Does that
Yeah,
sound good to you, David?
Christopher
Okay,
Doleshaw.
with the time?
Mark Gleason and Marie Martin were the other three that have been vetted by folks.
That we
So
had
I
shared
think any
names.
of those would be fine.
Great. Okay, so we'll continue to work on that.
Very good.
Thank you.
you.
All right, I got you having multiple tabs open, City Clerk, so we'll go back to our agenda for today. And then we continue to have our openings on public safety. Again, this was, we have a SAFE committee meeting next week, and for my appointment, actually Commissioner Jones has somebody who may have already applied, Daniel, and he actually may have somebody for CAB too. And then I'm going to seek to ask if somebody from our SAFE committee will serve on public safety as my appointment, and then I will follow up with Commissioner Lanier as well, because we had discussed this at the end of the year.
That's great.
We just were prioritizing some of the year end and the housing pieces. So I know Daniel, just as a reminder for our system colleagues, once it comes in, once somebody applies for their body, it needs to be manually input into a spreadsheet to be able to sort and to collect all that information. So hopefully in the future, it'll be more of a one click, but it does take a little bit of extra time to do that. And then I think the rest, I will leave that for us to continue to peruse, but there's not any ones that I have any updates or highlights for, and we just did a stormwater oversight one as well. Mr. Marquardt, since you are here, would you like to discuss either urban forestry or urban agriculture? Do you have any? Not that you have to, but if you have any questions for us, since it looks like you have one appointment, or there's not you, but there's one appointment on each one of those bodies.
Right.
And I think we also had some names in the queue for those. All right. Okay, well, it's 8:17, so I'm going to go, unless colleagues, any final thoughts, comments?
Okay, I'm good.
All right, well, we can go ahead and adjourn this meeting then. Thank you. Have a good day. right, good morning, everyone. We're going to go ahead and call this fiscal committee meeting to order at 8:32. The first item, how's everyone doing? Hopefully, everybody had a nice holiday. So some of us are seeing each other for the first time in 2022. The first item that we have is a resolution authorizing the City of Grand Rapids to enter in agreements with the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, Kent County Community Action Agency, and Ottawa County Community Action Agency to participate in and accept funding for the Low-Income Household Water Assistance Program. Do you have a motion?
So moved.
I support it.
Good morning, Commissioners. How are you
How are you
today?
doing?
What you have in front of you today is an additional program that DHHS, with funds from the federal government, has developed and provided guidance on in terms of providing our customers with water assistance, water and sewer payment assistance programs. The program goes through the end of September in 2023, and it basically works through our local action agencies. So for the City of Grand Rapids, we have customers, water and sewer customers in both Kent County and Ottawa County. So we have two agreements, one for Ottawa County and one for Kent County.
Okay, all right. Any questions, Commissioner Moody?
I have none at
We
this
have for
point.
Mr.
in time.
Dernberg? Okay, well, thank you for sharing that and sharing the information about, again, how our local government bodies work together to try to support our residents, especially during this time. So, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Can I say that it carries, clerk? Okay, thank you. All right, our next item is a resolution authorizing payment to the Franklin Halwerda Company for a decanting pump in the amount of $38,700. Do you have a motion?
So moved.
And I'll support that. Mr. Grenier, how are you doing?
Good morning, Commissioners. What this is authorizing $38,700 to replace one of our decanting pumps. And what these pumps do is they're what we use to drain our equipment. So I cannot work on equipment unless I'm able to drain it. And this pump was installed in 1976. It is used up and no longer supported by the company.
All right. Thank you. Any questions, Commissioner?
None.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It carries. Thank you. The next item is a City Commission resolution authorizing execution of an outstanding free agreement with acd.net. Do you have a motion?
So moved.
All right. I'll support that. And,
I'm right here.
all right. I'm sorry. I'm
No, it's unusual
in my different
for-
spot. I said it was going to be the same, and I spoke too soon.
And
Mr.
thankfully,
Strom.
we don't have to bring too many items to you, but this particular item shouldn't look all too unfamiliar. We did have a briefing on this towards the end of 2021. Our friends at Foster Swift have been helpful in negotiating a settlement to resolve a rather complex matter that deals with infrastructure and different fees associated with this sort of work. This agreement would resolve all fee disputes from the years 2019, 2020, and 2021. It also sets a rate, so we'll avoid any future discrepancies that kind of led to this sort of dispute that we're seeking resolution on today. This will authorize the mayor to sign the agreement. The proposed terms have not changed since you were briefed on it, and we're grateful for the friends at Foster Swift that were helpful in resolving this.
Thank you, Mr. Strom. Commissioner Moody? Any
I have
questions?
none, Commissioner.
All right. Thank you for that update. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it carries. Next is a resolution establishing a 457F deferred compensation plan. Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Support? Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Joe Kim. I'm the Employee Benefits Manager.
Hello.
Okay, so the City of Grand Rapids has historically offered.
Mr. Kim,
Oh,
can you put your microphone on? It might be off. It's on. Is it? Okay.
Okay. Oh,
Could you
there you
speak
go.
up a little
Okay.
bit more then? Thank
Okay.
you.
The City of Grand Rapids has historically offered a 457 deferred compensation plan. ICMA-RC, they recently changed their name to Mission Square Retirement. They are the administrator of that plan and 4 other plans that we have. The purpose of this agenda item is to request City Commission approval for the attached resolution establishing an additional 457 plan for a key executive deferred compensation plan, and to authorize the mayor and the Human Resource Director, after review by the City Attorney's Office, to enter the necessary agreements.
Thank you so much. Commissioner Moody, we've been briefed on this item as it relates to just overall benefits as we do some of our year-end contracts and things like that. So do you have any other questions?
Nope, I'm familiar with it.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it carries. Thank you. Our next item is a resolution authorizing a budget substitution for the Remembrance Road Lift Station Upgrades Capital Project in the amount of $142,000 for a total not to exceed amount of $292,000.
So moved.
Supported? You're back again.
Yes. Good morning again. So what this is the Remembrance Lift Station. We budgeted this project. The supply chain issues are real. We were asking for an additional $142,000 for the project for a total not to exceed number of $292,000. The costs that were associated with this are a significant pump around. Those are significant expenses. And then the pumps have gone nuts, to put it quite frankly. So much so that we were looking at a $40,000 increase in the pump costs. Just by crossing the first of the year, we were able to use the city manager's emergency authority to buy those directly from the manufacturer. That said, we're still short and we need that substitution.
Okay. All right, thank you, Mr. Grenier. Commissioner Moody?
Nope, I'm in
Okay.
favor.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it carries. Thank you. All right, the next item is our resolution authorizing the bid list for January 11th, 2020. Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Supported by me. Ms. Colton, do you have anything that you want to highlight?
The item that he was just talking about will be on the bid list for
Okay.
January 25th.
Okay, wonderful. Thanks for connecting the dots. Sometimes we don't do that enough, so I appreciate it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, carries, aye. The next item is our forecasting report for January 11th, 2022. Do you have any questions, Commissioner, before?
I have none, Commissioner. Thank you for asking.
All right, that report is received and filed. The next item is our warrant report from 12/1/2021 through 12/28/2021, and our travel and fund reports for November 2021. Mr. Comptroller.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
So for the period reference there, the city released cash payments totaling approximately $37.3 million, which includes $9.5 million for employee payroll expenses and approximately $393,000 for income tax warrants during that period. In terms of quantity, that equated to 343 income tax refunds being issued and 2,046 accounts payable checks being issued. And the detail of all the checks and payments issued exceeding the amount of $20,000 are included on the following pages. Looks like these tables didn't transfer great into the packet this time, but that is being updated on our website. Next year, we also have included our November fiscal year-to-date travel report, which details travel spend by each city department for the first 5 months of the fiscal year. And so the report shows that we spent overall $398,000, or about 20% of our annual budget. The last report here we have this morning is also our November fiscal year-to-date monthly funds report. And this is just a summary of some of the revenue and expenditures in our main city funds for the first 5 months of the fiscal year, and is meant to be a public-friendly overview of just kind of an extra layer of detail of some of the economic and operational factors that drive revenue and expenses at the city throughout the year. And this report is also available now on our city comptroller website. And that concludes the reports I have for you this morning.
Thank you, and thanks for noting where that's available for further transparency. And our last item today is our treasurer's report for the period of December 1, 2021 through December 28, 2021. Mr. City Treasurer.
Good morning, Commissioners. With our report today, we're focusing a little bit more granularly on inflation, just to give you an idea of what is happening. So one of the items that we have is called demand pull inflation, and that's normal. That's normal in an economy that's healthy. That's as the demands are on goods and services, then you can see prices increase. Why is a Toyota more expensive than a Ford? It could very well be the demand on that certain model. The ones that are hitting us now are cost push. And so as we're seeing wages increase, raw materials increase, shipping costs, those costs that are going into completing the construction of a project or product is then driving the price higher. And that is actually what is the harm that's happening right now. Those are the things that are really disruptive and harmful in our world right now. There was a good piece on Sunday on 60 Minutes about the Great Resignation. When you're hearing about 4.2 million people resign their positions in October, 4.5 million people that have resigned in November, you start hearing about employers that are saying, I'll pay you $5,000 if you've worked here less than a month and you want to walk away, because they want to retain their talent and keep their core teams available without continuing to grow an employee base. Right now, when we're looking at it, supply can't be raised right now to the point to meet the demand. It's just not there. We don't have the workers. The costs are so expensive. It's hard to do that. And so when we look at that, when we talk about the federal government, we talk about the Fed actually talking about raising interest rates. They don't have the tools in their toolkit to fix this. We're going to have, this is like getting your own virus and letting it run its course. And so a lot of the things that the government can do are not going to help alleviate this, not in the short term. You're not going to see something that's going to happen, and they're not going to flip a magic switch. One of the things that we've consistently talked about over time is, as we've seen our interest rates drop down to 0 to 0.25%, the Fed doesn't have any tools to actually work to help fix this. So right now, if I was saying anything, I mean, we don't have a vaccine for it. We have to let the economy and the world economy and the supply disruption and everything else has got to have time to heal and solve itself. I don't mean to be as much of an alarmist, but I mean, I don't have anything else to really draw on as to how this can be completed. But what we're looking at for ourselves, though, when we look at our own investment portfolio, we're sitting with $555 million in reserve items that we're earning 1.3%. So we are earning quite a bit higher than what the market is bearing right now. But, you know, there's going to be a shift. We know it's coming. It's just the question is going to be, what is the next 6 to 12 months going to look like as we try to work through this, as we hopefully all have our vaccines and are boosted and we're seeing the impacts on our people start to diminish. I mean, as we're seeing our own administrative policies go from a 10-day quarantine to a 5-day to follow CDC guidelines, we're hearing that there's fewer people that are on ventilators, that we have more people that it's starting to subside the severity of it. But regardless, it's severe. And we have a lot of people that are evaluating, do I want to work full time? Would I rather stay home? How do I value work-life balance? And so I listened to a person yesterday who was speaking about the changing social contracts, you know, between employer and employee. How do I manage telework? How do I manage the work-life balance? How do I offer the appropriate benefits to bring people into the office? Maybe not physically into the office, but into the office could be just on your computer virtually. So those things are all being reinvented and redesigned. And so really right now, I think we're in this spot of turmoil that we don't know what the outcome is going to be, but we have to watch and be prepared for things as they change. So with that, that is my report for today.
Thank you for the report. Colleagues, do you have any questions for the city treasurer? I think appreciate you always just, you know, I think need to be realistic and look at this macro picture and how this obviously trickles down and applies to city government. So, all right. If no other questions, we can go ahead and adjourn this meeting at 8:47. Thank you.
will call this meeting to order. Good morning. How's everybody? Happy New Year.
Well, thank you.
Good, good. Okay, we have our first resolution is setting the date to consider a major amendment to adjust the boundary of an existing SDPRD at 2080 Union Avenue Southeast.
So moved.
Support.
It's been moved and supported.
Good morning, Commission. If it's okay with the Commission, I'll take the first two items and present them under one because they are very related to each other. So this is the first one of two resolutions included on this agenda. As mentioned, both resolutions would set January 25th as the date for the Commission to consider these two ordinances. So the first resolution is a boundary adjustment to an existing PRD that was created in 2018. The PRD was completed per plan by Samaritas, and so if this amendment were approved, it would reduce the acreage of the existing PRD. It would effectively split off the green space, which served as the former ball fields, to the seminary. So other than a reduction in acreage, no other changes are being proposed. The second resolution creates a new PRD, and it would incorporate the green space that I've just mentioned and the land occupied currently by Bethany Christian Services. The Bethany portion of the site includes about 6.5 acres. That's at the northeast corner of the block. A use variance was granted in 2018 that allowed Bethany to operate the site as a transitional shelter. And the services do include a residential assessment center, day services for children in the transitional foster care program, and offices for case management, clinical, medical, and educational staff. So if it's approved, if this amendment were to approve, it would allow Bethany to physically expand the existing services that they have there on site. And it would allow for the construction of a new 4-story office building and about a 90-space parking lot. The dwelling place portion of the site includes about 5.5 acres, and that's on the southern half of the site, or what you see as the green space currently, the former ball fields. It would be improved with 42 single-family site condominium units, and it would also necessitate that, so that the approval includes the creation of a site condominium, which is important because that's an additional authorization that's needed. And the development would also necessitate the creation of new public streets. Design team has reviewed those public streets. It's worth noting, you'll see that again, of course, later in the future. If this amendment or if this item is approved. The streets themselves are not standard width. However, design team did look, and we are able to service all of the sites appropriately, and all of the elements of a traditional street are included within this plan. So we felt comfortable that the proposed street network included here is consistent with our Vital Streets plan. The Planning Commission did hold a public hearing on the plan. Significant input was received that you may have seen in your packet. Generally speaking, the majority of the concerns centered on 3 items: density, traffic, and the ownership structure of what would be a community land trust for the site condominium. So I'll cover those in detail. Or in greater detail, I should say. So in regards to density, the proposed lots are slightly smaller than the adjacent block. So it results in a density of 8.9 units per acre. And that's compared to the about 6.5 to 8.2 units per acre. So for a comparison of what's happening in the neighborhood adjacent. So the proposed density, however, although less, does align with both the zone district, the LDR zone district that's currently surrounding, as well as the thresholds of the master plan, the current master plan. In regards to traffic, city staff did require a traffic impact analysis. The estimated trip generation was right on that threshold, but we knew that this is a significant project, and so we wanted, meaning that significant change could result from the project. So we wanted to be very careful and cautious as to how we moved forward. So we did require that impact analysis, and although we can expect an increase in traffic, the existing infrastructure and road network can safely support the increase. In regards to the ownership structure, the development, the dwelling place portion of the site, as I mentioned, would be within a community land trust. The financial model or structure of that land trust is really, it's not a land use consideration. And so although it was referenced as a concern by several of the community members that you may have seen in your packet, it's not an item that the Planning Commission or the City Commission under this land use consideration has the authority to consider. However, part of the concerns also approach like the maintenance. who's responsible for these homes? Who's responsible for the land? How does that work? Who replaces the roof? Who takes care of the painting of the home, for example? And so maintenance of the land and the homes will be the responsibility of both the homeowners as well as part of the condominium association. So that master deed also spells out maintenance responsibility, as do almost every master deed that you would see. And so also, of course, the development will be regulated by the property maintenance code, which every property in the city is subject to that as well. So after deliberation, the Planning Commission did recommend approval of the two resolutions before you. They were subject to several conditions. Perhaps most worthy of noting of a condition is that there is a need for this project to return to the Planning Commission for final site plan approval for the building architectural elevations. Both the Planning Commission and city staff found that the current application really lacks sufficient detail as to what the homes would look like. So as part of the condition that is before you as well, condition of the resolution, would be for the development to return to Planning Commission. And that doesn't have to be done on a building by building basis. We can look at creating design guidelines that would govern the development, or doing model homes like you would see in maybe more greenfield or township areas, where you have that packet of building elevations that can be expected within the development, within the condominium itself. So that includes my overview of these two items, of the first and second item. I'm happy to answer any questions that the commission has. I'd also like to note that the Dwelling Place Development Team is also here, and I'm sure that they can also support staff if there's any questions. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you so much, Ms. Turkelson, for that detailed explanation and background. I know that the responses that you've given regarding the concerns that were brought forth helps me to kind of understand a little bit more of the context. I think as I was reading some of the remarks, I wasn't necessarily sure, especially like with the design and things of that nature, where most of that was coming from.
You want to pull up the map?
Yeah, I think that would be helpful for the viewing audience. I just have a quick question, and I'm wondering, I know when the trio came before Southtown's board with the proposal seeking support, I know that there was a question, at least by one member of our board who happens to be an expert in this field, was asking questions about the length of the streets. And I think he was indicating that it was so lengthy and he thought that they should have an additional separation on one of the streets. My mind didn't see it as such. So I was curious to know if any of that came up through the Planning Commission. I think they had 2 public hearings. If it came up during either of those public hearings, or if you all saw that that was the design of the residential portion, if the streets were too long.
Joel, if you don't mind, I think the proposed rezoning plan is the easiest attachment to
view?
pull it to view. Yep.
Oh, there it is.
You could
PRDO.
yep.
Yeah.
PRDO 3, Part 1C. Oh, there we go. Thank you. Is that on the screen? Okay, thank you. So the green portion, that's the portion of the land that's highlighted in green, that's a Samaritas portion, so that's the boundary amendment. Specific to your question, the southern half of the site, there were several iterations, and I apologize, I'm not sure which iteration was presented to Southtown, but there were several iterations of the layout that were modified through the work of the Dwelling Place team with the community. So that was probably the initial delay that we talked about. When they came to us in October, the plans were still a little bit in flux, and there was also the need that city staff required the traffic analysis. So we paused. Between October and December, that's where the development team went back to the community to really look at the layout, because there was concern. I think the initial plan had 3 access points on Winchell. And so there was quite a few, like I said, iterations of that. I don't remember the length of the street coming up during the hearing itself or being a concern that was noted. This did get reviewed by a design team. There was multiple occasions, so both engineering, traffic safety, my colleagues around this table, public works and fire, did look at this plan to make sure that all of the widths were adequate to support the required utilities. Also for maintenance, plow, all of the responsibilities that we have to maintain the streets, that there is sufficient length, width, turning radii that can accommodate the trucks that we have. So from a staff perspective, we are comfortable that the plan as presented can be properly serviced and maintained.
Okay, that's good to hear. And then I think the other element was the plan had a number of components that I think the commission has been over the years encouraging. And so to finally have a project that had all of these components and then to have some concerns by the neighborhood really kind of like, for me, gives me angst. But I think part of it is trying to help convey a message publicly about what these elements mean. I think is one of the factors that I think we may, not necessarily the commission, but the city probably needs to do a little bit better, because we've been trying to get a community land trust project. And so, finally we have one. These smaller lot lines, we've been talking about smaller lot lines so that we can get more density in places, but still have single family occupancy, because that's a desire of the community. And so I think, we have some work to do in helping convey what we've been encouraging, so that when we have developers who bring a project before this community, as well as the commission and the planning commission, that people understand kind of the history behind a lot of that work. Any questions, colleagues? For either of you?
Go ahead, Joe.
Comments?
Oh, I just want to express my continued support. There's something to be said about the development of this particular piece of land. I mean, historically, it's, served as a home for the diocese, and then went to, into the area of education. Now it's housing, and simply because of the fact that we need so much housing, and the fact that it's bringing to us both senior housing as well as the land trust, I think it's just a really, really big deal. And just couldn't be happier, because I know forever, I know the previous owners, Lighthouse, Full Life Center Church, and Dr. Marvin Sapp, that was a big deal for he and his organization to own that land, because it's so substantial, sitting in the middle of the city. And now for it to be used, I think, in a way that can bring, obviously, ownership, but also just real opportunity, is a really good thing. And so kudos to the planning department for the work that you've done. There's no doubt that you're going to have residents surrounding the property who may not be pleased with the ultimate outcome of the plan. But again, kudos to you all for doing your due diligence and giving folk an opportunity, obviously, to have voice. But I think that we're moving in the right direction, and again, couldn't be happier. Thankful to Dwelling Place for your leadership and your vision, and wanting to, again, put together something that has longevity with regards to the use as a land trust. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Permanent affordability, that's what I'm after right there. So, but I just want to speak to the second thing that you mentioned, Commissioner Lanier, and that is really in my engagement, I've had a lot of discussions with the neighbors. The neighborhood association found them in a tough spot because there are some concerns, and I don't want to take anything away from those concerns, but the concerns from the people who live south of this proposal and the concerns of the people who live north of this proposal are different. And so I think that that's just important to recognize, but I appreciate the detail that you gave, Ms. Turkelson, about, the response to those concerns and kind of framing it within the rest of our master planning process. So I think that is helpful. One other thing I wanted to mention, because I believe that another condition of Planning Commission's approval, which was unanimous, was to consider the storage in the garage areas. That was another concern that came up, and Planning Commission was able to address that in their approval. So I think that it is adding density to the neighborhood. We can't deny that. That will have impacts that we just need to be honest about. But I do think that I too am grateful for a model coming forward that I think could be replicated all over the state. It would be one of the first. And And so, yeah, in terms of communication about that, I think that, yeah, we've got some work to do to make sure that those residents who came out and were concerned about it, that they can understand our motivation in advocating for these types of developments. And so I've been encouraged with my conversations with people, even though there are concerns, I've been encouraged from my conversations with people about particularly the model and how it's laid out differently. And then, those other concerns, they're real, and, we'll have to see how it plays out. But I appreciated Ms. Turkelson's answers to those concerns this morning.
Thank you, Commissioner. And I think as well as the Planning Commission seeking for the, once they get down the road with design, for there to be either guidelines or for them to come back before the Planning Commission so that it gives the community, I think, even with a public hearing, so it gives the community another opportunity to weigh into another component that I think, quite frankly, is important, that the facade of structures need to not stand out in communities, but to complement communities. And so I think that's another great element to have had the Planning Commission to add.
Thank you. And with the flexibility that's being granted relative to lot sizes and reduced setbacks, I think it's really important that we do take great care as to what will this look like, because it's change, right? It's hard, I get that. But just to be clear, those final review is only of the dwelling place portion. The Bethany portion of the site, the Planning Commission accepted those elevations. So that part of the project, if approved by the commission, would be able to proceed through the permit process.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, the motion on the floor is really for the public hearing. Remind us of that, to schedule, was it not to set a public hearing? No?
Nope, it's to set the date for ordinance consideration for
Thank you.
month at January.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign? It carries. Thank you for bringing us back to the agenda. I'm trying to make sure I'm covering that. We had so many public hearings in here, too.
Madam Chair, we voted on both items with that motion?
We did not, because we did not call a motion on the second item, so we have to still call that motion
This was the boundary
and vote
change,
on
and
it.
now we'll do the next one. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, so we will move forward with the second item, which is a resolution setting the date to consider an ordinance rezoning at 670 Burton Street Southeast and approximately 6.8 acres of 2080 Union Avenue Southeast to SDPRD, and to approve a site condominium of 42 residential units.
So moved.
Support?
Any additional comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. It carries. Now we can move to the next item, which is a resolution scheduling a public hearing on the FY 2023 through 2025 Uptown Business Improvement Marketing and Development Plan and Special Assessment Renewal Request.
So moved.
Support.
Okay.
Good morning. I'm Ingrid Miller, the Executive Director for Uptown Grand Rapids, Inc. And as you see, we are seeking a 3-year renewal of our bid assessment. We're doing that for many reasons. One is to align with DGRI's renewal. We do have some joint contracts, and so it makes it a little bit easier on our end if our renewals match up. We also are seeking a 3% increase every year for the next 3 years. We have not sought an increase since 2016. It's still nominal. After the end of 3 years, it will still be under $6 a linear foot. We feel like this is an attainable increase, but it does help support the enhanced services that we've been kind of mastering since its beginning. That includes the addition of our ambassador program, which we launched last year. We've heard from the street, people are noticing a difference. It's cleaner, safer. The ambassadors empty our trash, they remove graffiti, they help with mobility assists within the district. In addition, we also have added a project coordinator to support our business associations. That's new this year, and we're about halfway through that program. So that increase will just help make sure that we can keep offering competitive wages for our contractors and support the growth of those programs. We are working on our annual report that we want to make sure gets out before February 22nd so that our business and property owners are aware and can celebrate with us the success of these programs. And yeah, I'm here for any questions.
Great, thank you. Thank you for being here. Mr. Grassi, anything to add?
No additional, just recommended that we schedule this public hearing as the first step in this important process.
Okay. Any questions, colleagues? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. It carries. Thank you for being
Thank you
with
so
us.
much.
Next, number 4. Item number 4 is a resolution awarding a contract to Allied Mechanical Services, Inc. for East Paris Pump Station Valve Replacement in the amount of $533,000 with total amount not to exceed $770,000 and $400,000. Did I say that right? No, 700 yeah.
I think you said it right.
Yeah.
So moved.
Thank you.
There's a lot of numbers in these
It
items.
is.
So I make it look easy. No. Good morning, Commissioners, and Happy New Year. So this project consists of various valve replacements and associated piping and controls in the East Paris Pump Station. Completion of the project will provide, this is one of the outcomes or one of the benefits, is it'll give the Water Department flexibility to execute operational maintenance without having to take the station out of service. And so current state would require drainage of the storage tank and taking the pumps completely out of service. So that'll be a key benefit of the project. 2 bids came in on December 16th, and Allied Mechanical Services submitted the low bid of $533,000, which was just over our engineer's estimate of $495,000. So this resolution before you awards the contract to Allied in that low bid amount with the total expenditures not to exceed $770,400, and that financing is to come from the Water System Fund.
Okay, great. Any questions, comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. It carries. Our 5th resolution is awarding a contract with Otis Elevator Company for elevator ceiling reconfigurations at various parking ramps in the amount of $46,210, with the total amount not to exceed $105,430.
Move it.
Support.
So this project will replace failing ceilings and light fixtures and elevators at 6 of the city's parking ramp structures. The elevators at these, of course, see significantly more wear and tear just due to the fact that they're in areas that don't have consistent traffic. They're operating 24/7, being exposed to the elements. And so Otis submitted the sole bid of $46,210, which was well under the engineer's estimate of $75,000. So we've included a larger than typical contingency in this project because we'd like to take advantage of those great bid prices. And that'll enable Mobile GR to replace 3 additional elevator ceilings using those unit prices that were bid. So the resolution is awarding the contract in the amount of $46,210, but setting the not to exceed amount at $105,430 with the financing coming from the Parking Systems Capital Fund.
Great, thank you. Any questions, comments, colleagues? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. It carries. Next, we have our 6th resolution, which is approving an increase of $627,400 for reconstruction of Lake Eastbrook from East Beltline to 28th Street for a total not to exceed amount of $4,345,400 for the local share of the project costs.
So moved.
Support.
All right, so this project's come before you a number of times, but it
Yeah.
is for the reconstruction of Lake Eastbrook there between East Beltline and 28th. So the new roundabout will also be installed at Sparks, a shared use pathway that's replacing the existing bike lanes on the street, new median islands, trees, and water main replacement. So back on July 13th, you approved an agreement with MDOT for the project and authorized expenditures of $3,718,000 covering our local share. That at the time was based on estimates for the project. MDOT received bids at close to that time frame on July 9th, and K&R submitted the low bid of $3,372,292, which was over the engineer's estimate of $3.28 million. So the requested increase that's before you today covers not only that construction price increase, but also reimbursement for consumers' energy having to relocate out of a private easement. So their costs are reimbursable. And additional costs for the shared use path improvements that are outside the right-of-way that'll either be handled under this contract or under a separate contract with one of our term agreement contractors. And then the final right-of-way acquisition piece that is still needed, but we're close to finalizing. So the increased authorization amount covers all of those aspects in the amount of $627,400, which raises our local share not to exceed amount to $4,345,400. And that financing is coming from the Water System Fund, the Capital Improvement Fund, and the Vital Streets Fund.
Thank you. This project is increasingly getting more and more expensive. And what's the timeline?
So it was bid in this past summer, but the plan all along was to construct it in 2022, and that was to give time for the utility relocation that has to happen. So sometime in the spring, we should see construction get underway.
Great, glad to hear that. Any questions or comments, colleagues? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. I didn't hear two ayes. All
I
in
said
favor, say aye.
We said it simultaneously. Our voice was one. Said aye.
This isn't the Glee Club. I need to hear some some variation. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. It carries. Thank you. Our seventh resolution is approving an increase with Tower Pinkster Titus, Inc. for additional design services at the Grand Rapids Public Museum in the amount of $1,087,029, with total authorized project expenditures not to exceed $2,257,908.
So moved.
Support.
All right, so this is to cover additional design services at the Public Museum. The cost of the design services for the first phase, which covers work along the riverfront, was approved on October 12th of last year in the amount of $994,010, with the total authorized expenditures of $1,115,583. That also included an amount for pre-construction services by the construction manager, Owen Ames Kimball Co. So this item increases those design fees to also cover Phase 2 of the museum improvements, which includes an addition and renovation to the museum's north end, and then also Phase 3, which will involve a new elevator tower. So that increases the not-to-exceed expenditures to $2,257,908. Tower Pinkster is going to perform the work pursuant to our existing term agreement that we already have in place, but we're seeking approval of the funding authorization. The costs will be financed, though, by the Grand Rapids Public Museum.
Mm-hmm. Any questions or comments, colleagues? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. It carries. Thank you. Our eighth resolution is awarding a contract with Fedwa Inc. for various water tank improvements and painting in the amount of $471,500, with total amount not to exceed $654,700.
So moved. Support.
Oh, this really is the Glee Club.
All right, this project consists of various repairs, improvements and recoating at the Knapp and Leonard elevated tanks, as well as some touch-up coatings at the Cambridge elevated tank. The Water Department has an asset management plan that spells out that their tanks and reservoirs should include recoatings, which will extend their life expectancy, and both the Knapp and Leonard tanks are due per that plan. 4 bids came in on December 16th, with Fedwa providing the low bid of $471,500, which was below the engineer's estimate of $574,000. So asking for your approval of the contract award in that low bid amount, with the total expenditures not to exceed $654,700, and the financing for this project coming from the Water System Fund.
Great. Questions, comments, colleagues?
I'll ask the question. Commissioner Lanier wanted me to ask the question of whether or not the colors were going to be pastel or earth tone. Just wondering about the.
I think the Water Department is still taking input on,
Okay.
on that, so if you could speak with
Thank you.
Mr.
Just wanted
Chamber.
to ask that question. Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions, important questions? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. It carries. Our final resolution is approving a Michigan Department of Transportation performance resolution to authorize the city engineer or designee to apply for the necessary permits to work within state highway right-of-ways.
I'll move it.
Support.
So you have approved these before. MDOT requires from time to time that governmental agencies approve an updated performance resolution in the latest form, and that's what we have before you, which allows us to apply for permits for work in the state highway right-of-way. So this resolution authorizes the mayor to sign the resolution on behalf of the city and also authorizes the city engineer or designee to apply for the necessary permits to do that work in the state highway right-of-way on behalf of the city.
Any questions or comments, colleagues? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. It carries. This meeting is adjourned. See you at 10. Thank you.
How you doing,
All right. Good morning, everyone, and Happy New Year. It is good to be back together after a little bit of a holiday break. I hope everyone had a really good time away and time with family and friends and an opportunity to relax a little bit and get recentered as we start a new year. We're going to start this year with a pretty light agenda for our Committee of the Whole. So we have one action item this morning, Commissioners. We have two brief updates, and then we have an executive session. So I'll call for that. Actually, I'll probably call for the executive session before the updates. And City Attorney, that's in 601? Is that right? Okay. So we'll go down to 601 immediately after COW for our executive session. So with that, we'll get started with our first action item. This is a resolution recommending approval by the Michigan Liquor Control Commission of a social district permit application pursuant to Public Act 124 of 2020. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Support. All right, moved and supported. We have Mr. Canfield here with us today to tell us about this item.
All right, good morning, Mayor and Commissioners. This is the standard format resolution you've seen before that would approve or recommend approval by the Liquor Control Commission of a social district permit for Stan's Tacos at 67 Ottawa. So this is the Arena Place building. And as you'll recall, social districts are the outdoor areas where people can carry a beverage, an alcoholic beverage, and consume that if sold by a permitted social district business.
Great, thank you. Commissioners, any questions or comments? All right, seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, it carries. All right, so I think I'll call before we get to the briefings. I'll go ahead and call for an executive session. So Commissioners, can I get a motion to go into an executive session to hear an opinion on a legal issue, pending litigation?
Support.
All right, moved and supported, and this is a voice vote, so I'll start down here with Commissioner Moody.
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Connor?
Yes.
Commissioner Lanier? Yes. Commissioner Reppert?
Yes, and I'll need to recuse myself from this meeting.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. And Commissioner Isasi?
Yes.
And I am a yes. So Commissioners, as I said, immediately after our briefings, we'll go to 6:01. And with that, I will turn it over to our city manager to tell us what we have in store for us this morning.
Good morning, Mayor and Commissioners and staff, public. Happy New Year to everyone. We're going to ask our Human Resources staff to come and provide an update on some of our wellness initiatives. And we're starting the year off with commitment, certainly to continue to serve the public, but also a commitment to make sure that our employees have good self-care and members of the community. I think it's really important that all of us take inventory at the beginning of the year. And so I'm going to ask Mike Osterbond to come, and then he'll be joined by some of the other members from our Parks and Parks Department. Mike?
Good morning, Mayor and Commissioners. Happy New Year to all of you. It's good to be here and good to see you again. I'm Mike Osterbond. I'm the Assistant Employee Benefits Manager. Normally, Jess Welch, our Wellness Coordinator, would be doing these presentations for you, but she's on maternity leave right now after the birth of her very handsome and healthy, of course, baby boy last month. So I'll be filling in for her for the next couple months here, and so I'm delighted to be able to give this presentation to you this morning. First off, we want to talk about why do we offer workplace wellness? Well, there's lots of research out there to support the fact that employers should be offering wellness opportunities. For example, from Forbes, 87% of employees consider health and wellness offerings when choosing an employer. To be an employer of choice, we want to offer those things as well. 70% of employees enrolled in wellness programs report higher job satisfaction. That's from AFLAC. Workplace wellness significantly improves employee morale, and also well-designed wellness programs lead to a return on investment of $1.50 to $3 for every dollar spent over a time frame of 2 to 9 years, and that's straight from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. One thing that we really want to focus on this morning as well is our employee assistance program. We have it through Encompass Mental Health Services. That's something that allows employees to have up to 5 free visits per issue per person per year, and it can be for a variety of different things. We, as you know, have gone through a couple of really rough years, a couple mentally draining years, and as an employer, it behooves us to allow employees to meet with someone in a confidential manner to get some of that mental baggage off of them so that they can continue to perform excellent services to elevate the quality of life for all of our citizens, no matter what department they're in. So again, it's confidential, it's free. I just wanted to highlight that. It is available to all employees. And also I want to give a call to any managers or supervisors who might have an employee or know of an issue. We do allow Encompass to come on site to meet with employees too if there's ever a critical incident or there might be a need for that. So just if you have any questions about that, please feel free to reach out to our office as well. So what are some of our program goals? Well, first of all, we want to enhance the wellness opportunities to encourage participation in the Health and Wellness Incentive Program. We had kind of a weak program before Jess Welch started. It was a very minor program of just checking some of your body stats, your blood pressure, your blood glucose, not a lot of activity-based. And so now we're moving into an activity-based thing. And in this fiscal year alone, we have over 70 opportunities for employees to participate in programming. We want to increase participation this fiscal year to 50%. Typically is around 30% participation. And then moving forward, we want to look at 65 or even greater percent participation in that programming. Number two, we want to communicate clearly and often so that all employees are well of the wellness program, the wellness team, and the EAP. We want to have monthly newsletters that we send out. We want a wellness committee, wellness champions, a whole network of people across all departments and across all people groups here to give feedback out and also receive feedback. And we're really growing that program, and it's working very well for us. And we can see that because of the increased participation already this year. Third, we want to engage in evidence-based practices which result in a reduction of chronic conditions. We have a lot of educational opportunities. So we had one yesterday on thyroid health, tobacco cessation, diabetes prevention and improvement program, health coaching, and more that help to decrease chronic condition prevalence and also ultimately save our plan costs. And it's not just our health insurance as well. There's a lot of plan costs in terms of absenteeism when people are gone, or also presenteeism where they might be physically at their job, but they've got so much stuff going on in their life that they're not able to focus on their work either. So again, going back to the employee assistance program, that can help with those sorts of things as well. And finally, we want to enrich the city culture so that the workforce is satisfied with and feels supported by the organization. Having a culture and environment that is assessed annually with a perceived wellness, culture, and environmental scale, that's a good way to get the feedback, allow opportunities for employees to speak into the programming, the things that they want to see, and also tailor programming to meet them where they're at. We know that the needs of the police department and what they want in wellness is very different from the people who are out working on the streets and the water mains. So we want to be able to give the opportunities that people want and will actually participate in. So I just want to pause for a moment if there's any questions about this before we move on.
I just have a quick question. For the Encompass, do we have an idea of what our general participation rate is per year?
Yeah, it varies per month, and the problem with that is because it is confidential, we can kind of see like general numbers for that, but it really varies by month. So I would say it is somewhat low. I'd say probably like 15 to 20% of employees participate in that, which is why we want to continue to talk about it and to make that better.
That's actually better than the national average, I think. So
oh, good.
Kudos, city.
Excellent. Yeah. Okay, very good. Well, now to give you a little taste of that, we have Parks and Recreation fitness instructor Amy Queiser. She's here. She's going to talk about some of the great work that she does and some examples of that, and also lead us in a few minutes of a light warm-up activity.
Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. My name is Amy. I am a fitness instructor for the Parks and Recreation Department. Are you sick of me yet? Are you tired of me? This is my 4th year doing this. No? You're good? Okay. Okay, good. So today I have a fun little warm-up to do with you all. We will be moving our bodies. We have a really fun salsa song to move to. And I know we are sitting at our desks, right? So we got to get up and go behind the chair. You can stay put for a second. I will give you a little introduction. But just to tell you a little bit about what we have going on in our recreation department. We just started a new session of 30 plus classes, adult fitness classes per week. Last week was the first week of it. We have a variety of in-person and virtual classes that we offer. I personally teach Zumba. I teach a HIIT style class called Strong Nation, and then basic yoga, among some other really great instructors. We offer Pound classes, which is like cardio drumming, and then bar. We just actually put some ballet bars up in our main fitness studio at 201 Market. So we have some of the bar classes going every single week in person and then also virtual as well. So if you're interested in those, go check them out. You can sign up right on the website, or you can call down to our main office and sign up over the phone as well.
And
So,
Amy,
okay.
for clarification, this is for all residents.
Yes, all residents, and actually it's it's not just for residents, it's for anybody. So like, for instance, the virtual classes, my mom tunes in from Massachusetts. So she can sign up on our website, and then, really anybody. It's just, there's a discount for Grand Rapids residents. So I think it's only like $10 more, right, for somebody who's not a resident. So anyway, so that's been really fun. The fun part about teaching virtual is having people from all over the place. And we also have a former city employee who moved down to Mexico. She tunes in from Mexico to my Zumba class on Thursdays, which is really cool. So anyway, so okay, are we ready to move? Yes. Okay, let me get somebody's got a foot injury. No? Yes, we're okay? Okay. Okay, let me get tuned up here. So we have like really great acoustics. So we're gonna go ahead and stand up. I gotta get my music set up here. Okay, so we remember last year, real quick. Okay, lots of reaching and waving, right? Yep, lots of reaching and waving. So what I do every year is basically the same moves, I just do a different song. So this year we have a salsa movement, and I was told no boogie woogieing. I'm sorry, Mark. I didn't know. A little bit, there's a little bit of boogie woogieing. Okay, are we ready? Are we warm? Heart rate up a little bit? Yeah, good.
All right, thank you. It's good practice. We should do that every Tuesday. All right, so now we'll go on to our next briefing, and that is the 2021 highlights and the outlook for the year ahead. Our city manager will also remind us of the upcoming schedule related to our city budget and some key dates for 2022 that we all should be looking forward to. So city manager, I think I'll just turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners, and again for your participation in exercise as I catch my breath from those moves. We're so, again, thankful for all the leadership you provided, continue to provide, and the work of staff, the partnership and participation from community as we move into 2022. There are so many things that I'm thankful for 2021, and whenever asked the top thing, the top 3, top 5, top 10, it's very difficult to do. Because there's just so much that has been done to make sure our community continues to move forward in this global pandemic and recover as part of the economic recession. But just a few highlights. I won't park very long on either one of them, just to remind us of a look back and look forward as we continue to try to sustain our current city services and leverage the $46 million in ARPA funding that we received in the fiscal 22 fiscal plan. Our bond rating in the midst of this economic recession has remained very strong, AA2. And we appreciate the leverage effort of the partnership with county and other agencies in providing rental assistance, over $38 million in our county, as well as the continued development, experimentation of the social zones and social districts, and the business support that we were able to provide during the pandemic. We've seen the corporate reinvestment and relocations in Grand Rapids during 2021. It was opened, celebrated Perigo opening, as well as the last year, the return of one of our biggest tourism events in the city with Art Prize, as well as our continued reinvestment in affordable housing, and looking forward to the recommendations from the fund of how to best allocate the money that's been designated for affordable housing, and with the Housing Fund Board, and as we continue to focus on key development opportunities around 201 Market and River Restoration. Appreciate the police department and all the work that they've done to help improve policy and good policing outcomes with their reform efforts, and focus on crime reduction. Again, one homicide is too many, but we saw unprecedented number in 2020, 38, and this year, 2021 was about half of that. So we look forward to the continued reduction in crime, violence prevention, partnership with our Public Safety Committee, Safe Task Force, Cure Violence, launching this year, as well as the increased number of guns that have been taken off the street. And not only the security, physical security of our community, but I think we also have improved the cybersecurity with our internal network and all of our resources as we become more digital in accessing city government. We were able to launch the $2 million participatory budgeting process. Appreciate the leadership from the Planning Department and the master plan kickoff. And we continue to focus on community development and installing lead lines and replacing lead lines with the EPA grant that we received, the $5 million grant. And I know that we've talked about staffing both in police and fire, and I'm looking forward in mid-year to getting a good update on the recruitment efforts of both, and how they are in this very challenging economy, trying to ensure that we continue to recruit and retain our employees. And the fire department had a very successful reaccreditation experience when they were on site in 2021. So lots of stuff happening in public safety, to include the continued expansion of our homeless outreach team as you approve money that would allow us to have the emergency winter shelter this year, provide extra capacity during the pandemic, as well as allowing a place for those persons who are unhoused to store their belongings during the daytime, even when they're not sheltered. So we're thankful for our community development department, as well as a partnership with Mel Trotter and the county in making that happen. We continue to focus on basic services and the revitalization, our implementation of our Vital Streets effort, $28 million in investments, include $3 million in sidewalk projects. I know that there's more demand for sidewalk enhancement than there is resources, and we'll talk a little bit about that in our opportunities for 2022, and seeing what other creative ways that we can look in terms of addressing some of our sidewalk needs. We were able to deploy the micro-mobility bikes and scooters, and you see some of them still around during winter, even on the coldest days, because of both the streets being able to be plowed, and I appreciate the work of our Public Works Department, but also our sidewalk plowing program. We have additional extra accessibility for micro-mobility. And we had, I think, up to 2,500 units out at one point. Is that number right now, I'm recalling correctly? Yes. Continue to focus and partner with the Rapid on shelter and bus accessibility. We have the approval of the 43 new stops in the partnership with Next Step of West Michigan for cleanliness of those areas. And I won't go into much more detail, but you can see the things that we're doing with the infrastructure as I continue to roll our implementation with the biodigester. Understand we'll start actually producing gas in February for the biodigester, and we advance our implementation of solar at Lake Michigan filtration plant, $1 million, as well as the installation of LED lights and launching those collaboratives to make sure that we have a sustainable community environmentally with C4, with the EH0, as well as the trees that we continue to plant in the greening of our city and expansion of our parks. Lots of good news in terms of innovation. You'll see I appreciate also the development of our headquartering of MCPC in our third ward at Madison, as well as hiring of new staff. Our communications director and our innovation officer has been hired. We're trying to increase our engagement digitally with citizens. And we're doing all this in the midst of a growing community and having almost 6% growth since the last census, and finding ways to engage more with our community with Wi-Fi in our parks. So I'm very pleased with some of the accomplishments of 2021, and particularly as we become even more intentional about equity, whether it is adding our translation services to GR Pay It, or looking at ways of making bill payment more affordable, and allowing more periodic payment for people to pay their bills, or talking about expungement or engagement of equity and inclusion, being more deliberate in our contracts with our MLBEs, and making sure that we can increase the number of MLBEs that we have that take advantage of our procurement opportunities, as well as our employee resource groups. I found this slide very interesting in 2021 in terms of construction activity, the value of it. Last year was $443 million in 2021. And if this is a good sign, because in the past 21 years, that was the third highest year of construction investment. Also on the housing side, we were able to add 658 residential units in Grand Rapids, of which 289 of those were LIHTC projects. And so that was our third highest year ever in LIHTC projects, and as well as we've been awarded quite a few that are in the pipeline, as you can see. And we're trying to get a little bit better idea of regional, because we know that we can't address all the housing supply in the city ourselves, and so we're trying to get a better number countywide. But the best we could do for this report was to see all of the development activity that was done based on those who use our regional water and wastewater utilities. And so you can see of those 11 communities, I believe, there were additional 1,115 units that were constructed in 2021 outside of Grand Rapids, in addition to our 658 units. So as we look forward to 2022, we continue to focus on basic services and making sure that we can deliver those services in the midst of a pandemic and recession. We'll continue to advance our vision of our community master plan. That's an opportunity, and appreciate the appointments, and looking forward to the work of that board, that task force, as well as the consultant that will be hired. We have an opportunity to be even more deliberative appreciative in our collaboration with Kent County, with the new county administrator that's been hired, Administrator Vandenberg. And as you're aware, in the process of right now of hiring our new police chief, and I expect sometime in the next couple of days we'll be able to announce the finalists. We've already announced last week the date in which the community can come out and meet the finalists, and I believe that's on the 19th at 6:30 here in this chamber, and we will announce the names tomorrow. And again, as always, I'm very appreciative of the leadership of Chief Payne during these very challenging times. I've also had the chance to announce the new deputy city manager due to Eric DeLong's retirement. That announcement went out last week. Kate Behrens, who is the deputy city manager in Bellevue, Washington, will be starting with us in March, and so we're looking forward to her hire. And as she transitions on, Deputy City Manager DeLong will be transitioning into his new season, but he'll still be around to help us make good handoffs. So appreciate that. We'll continue to focus on equity and making sure that all of our values, equity, innovation, customer service, accountability, sustainability, are embedded in our strategic and business plans, and continue to focus on how we can improve our communications and engagement, and looking forward to Mr. Green even making more of an impact in helping us with our communications effort. We continue to be focused on crime prevention and further reducing the episodes of violence, crime, and we know that we cannot do that alone and must do it in collaboration with community partners. And next year we have a opportunity, or this year rather, 2022, we'll continue to focus on make sure that we have a very viable workforce. You heard the presentation earlier. I want to make again share my appreciation for the HR and Parks Department for their support, but these are very, very stressful times for all workplaces, but particularly for those who are in public service. And we need to make sure we do what we can to support our employees, and one opportunity in doing that is as we look at the expiration of all of our labor agreements to make sure that we have good contracts in place that will allow us to recruit and retain the best employees that the public may be served at a level that makes sure that they are getting quality governmental services. With everything that's going on, as you see, it's a lot, we are going to really try to be intentional this year to make sure that we set a sustainable cadence and pace with the new people that are coming on board, as well as people that are transitioning. And we'll talk more about that at our future briefings that you'll see, and certainly at our mid-year update, as well as you have your budget deliberations. I think most of these are continuations of many of the things I highlighted in 2021, so I won't go into a lot more detail on that. And you can see other opportunities to focus on things in 2022. This year we have elections and redistricting happening, and so that's going to take additional focus of our staff to be supportive of that effort, as well as we have several key redevelopment projects. There may be leverage funding that might be awarded to us. We want to be real intentional about redevelopment of MLK Lodge and several other community centers in our community, and getting talking to the mayor this morning, see if we can get more state funding for those efforts. I will advance to slide number 8, the last slide, as we look in terms of our roadmap. So looking forward to the 22nd. I think previously we shared the placeholder on the 18th in previous briefings of our mid-year financial update, and so we finalized the date earlier this week for the 22nd, and we'll make sure those get on your calendars. And we'll hear an update from CFO where we are on our spending of the ARPA funds, and there's been additional guidelines or interpretations of fund eligibility, and some things have changed since our initial budgeting, and so that will be very helpful. And that will be our opportunity to hear any additional feedback before the presentation of the budget on the 26th, and we'll continue to have sessions as outlined until the 24th, where we will hopefully receive your adoption. And shortly after that, we'll catch a breath, and we see the primaries for the election is in August. We'll come back in September, October, sometime after, and discuss our annual performance report, and then begin thinking about what remains in the years ahead. Prior to that, or there around that time, we will have the 2022 election on November 28th. So with that, I'll pause, and again, thank you for your leadership in 2021, and I look forward to a very prosperous 2022. So any thoughts, reactions? Happy to hear those.
Great. Thanks, City Manager. I appreciate this update. It's nice to see it all in one place. I know many of these items we talked about at our board retreat, but it's nice to have it so concise before us. I think we said this last time we were together at our retreat. It's pretty amazing that in the midst of the pandemic, we were still able to move forward with so many priorities. So Commissioners, any questions or comments for our City Manager? Commissioner?
Yeah, I'll just say, when my family did a little 2021 review, and my wife and I both shared kind of professional things with our children that we were proud of, and there were a lot in 2021. It was a really great year. A lot of these things on this list were on my personal list of things that I'm proud of, and was able to share that with my kids. And so I just want to thank the staff. It was a hard-running year, and I do appreciate that bullet around finding the right pace for this year. So I just appreciate those things, and I'm really proud of what we accomplished in the last year as a group.
Yeah. Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Lanier?
City Manager, thank you for summarizing these highlights. I think, Mayor, you're right. To have it in such a concise document is appreciated. I really appreciated slide 5 and the effort to try to come up with countywide numbers regarding housing units, and by being creative and using water services. So thank you for that, because I know we've been talking repeatedly about this isn't a Grand Rapids proper issue, but a regional issue. And I think the other question that I had, or a question that I do have, is with the meeting of the candidates for the police chief, I wonder if it's possible to have a daytime option as well. I know that with the evening options are most preferred for people who may work daytime, but there are others who may work in the evenings. And a daytime option frequently becomes well attended, I've found, when we've had some of those public forums. So if someone could consider that and maybe share that as the candidates are being presented. And then I'd like to hear more, not necessarily today, but like to hear more about the possible state funding that could be available for projects like the expansion of the MLK Lodge, and if there's anything that I can do to help with that, I'd like to be aware. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Jones?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, City Manager, for the update. I find it to be, as the Mayor has mentioned, very helpful to have it all in one place. I, too, would like to lift up the inclusion of the units that were constructed throughout the county in partnership with the city. I say that because there's something to be said about noting that, but also putting out there our desire to have greater collaboration with the county. And that's, I think, something that I'm very much looking forward to, because I think it's impossible really for us to do all that we desire to do without a real tangible partnership with the county, and both the county and the city, recognizing that it's of mutual benefit if we're moving forward in that direction. I also am happy to see that throughout the opportunities that have been listed for next year, or this year rather, it's a really laser beam focus on equity and looking for equitable outcomes. I think that, we continue to push forward with that being part of our vision and having a desire to have a more equitable community. But nothing beats just keeping it out front and being very intentional about and unapologetic about wanting to create equitable outcomes, because I believe, as I'm sure many of my colleagues, all of my colleagues here believe, that that's the only way that we can be the city that we desire to be, is if we have more equitable outcomes. Also want to lift up just a continued effort to further reduce violent crime. I had the opportunity to send around a piece that I thought was very well written by Dr. John Roman out of the University of Chicago that's touched on violence and what we can expect around trends. And I think we have a real opportunity with initiatives like Cure Violence and other efforts to really get at the violent crime issue and continue to try to reduce those numbers by providing opportunities to our young people. And beyond that, not just opportunities for our young people, but also opportunities for the families in our city. So again, excited about 2022 and anything that we can do, city manager, to continue to advertise and push the fact that we do have new housing units that are being built in the city. I think we need to maybe get a billboard or something and let folk know that here are the numbers from last year, and we're consistently working to grow density. So thank you.
All right, any other comments? All right, commissioners, with that, we will close. Again, ask you to join me down in 601 for executive session.